My name is Mark Delicave, and I've been with Quizzify, for 6 odd years, and I manage our sales and account management. I have with me Al Lewis, our CEO. Most of you know Al. He's recognized as one of the foremost authorities in wellness and population health. He's written several books on that topic. He's going to be talking about aspects of our pricing today. And also with us is another co-founder of Quizzify, Peter Prosel, who has put together a really cool pricing model that we're going to be sharing with you as we get into this. And Peter's also our CTO. Now, just to get us started here, I'm going to spend a moment to talk about Quizzify's. We believe health literacy is a crucial benefit for an employee's health, and it's an essential part of a good health plan. And one of the concepts that and I'm going to talk about a couple concepts here. One of the concepts that we emphasize is exercise, because if there was one pill that a person could take to improve their health, it would be exercise. And our content helps people to understand that to begin with, and then how they can exercise in their daily lives. It doesn't take a lot of exercise to really start to improve your health. You can do things like just walking faster in an airport. We also have content that just helps people to understand if you're going to do a certain type of exercise like sit-ups, well, maybe not sit-ups are not really the best thing to do. Maybe you should be doing planks instead. So we've got some really good content there that's a core emphasis of our education. What we also do is we educate about prescription drugs. A lot of people misunderstand what the FDA approval process is. They think FDA approval means that the drug works 100% of the time. It often doesn't. Sometimes it only works 50% of the time. They often think that the drug that they see on TV that's FDA approved is better than the drug that was out there before. And that's not necessarily the case. The FDA essentially approves their drugs more based on safety, and education there is important. It's important that people understand that. Cancer is a very serious illness, and it's very surprisingly easy to explain ways to prevent and detect cancer. We've got some really good content that help people to understand measures they can take to prevent cancers, as well as when they should go for screenings and tests for cancer. What also is very prevalent with complex illnesses is misdiagnosis, and this is largely misunderstood. The Mayo Clinic did this study and they found that for complex illnesses, only 12% of the patients that came to them, the diagnoses were complete and accurate. So, and this dovetails into the rationale for second opinions. So we explain how to get a second opinion, why you get a second opinion, and if you have a second opinion service built into your plan, we can easily just direct people right there. So you put all this content together, it's quite a bit at this point. We have 1,800 questions. We have doctorates at Harvard Medical School reviewing our medically oriented content. And the thrust of what we're trying to do in our health literacy is look for hand-picked topics where once you've learned about that concept, you can put it into action. And our secret sauce is really just the pure education. Once someone learns about using SDF for cavities, it's less expensive, it's painless, it's quick. When they go to the dentist, they're going to remember that. If their doctor suggests they get a high-tech CT scan, they're going to ask a few questions before they demand one or rush into it. They're going to understand that we're doing a ton of these in privately insured plans, that they're very expensive, and they also have a lot of radiation. Now, the other aspect of health literacy that's worth talking about for a couple of minutes is that health literate employees spend less on healthcare. In privately insured plans, we're doing a ton of unnecessary and potentially harmful medical tests and procedures. And we explain what these procedures are, what these tests are, and we prepare people to ask the right questions when they're in front of the doctor.
Mark, just to add to that last slide, you want to go back a sec?
Sure.
Yeah, one of Quizzify's mantras is to teach people that just because it's healthcare doesn't mean it's good for you. If people remember nothing else from Quizzify and they remember that, they're improving their health and you're saving money.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah. So what our users develop is a healthy skepticism. The all of the players in the healthcare marketplace are in it for profit. So caveat emptor really does apply to the healthcare marketplace. So with a healthy degree of skepticism, what Quizzify does is it actually prepares people at the point of service. Now, our quizzes have a lot of good information, but we also have a mobile app. That mobile app has 190 odd categories of clinical encounters, so that when someone is going in to see the doctor for back pain, they can read a little bit about the condition. In some cases, you can actually play a quiz. You can put it on your calendar, and when you're sitting there in front of the doctor, you're prepared to ask all the right questions and really master that clinical visit. We also have this strategy that Al's going to elaborate on in a bit about just keeping almost all in-network ER bills under $1,000. We call it our prevent consent, but having an employee that's got an injury, adding a surprise bill to that is really a major insult, but it's also potentially financially crippling as well. So that's a very valuable part of our education, which we'll be talking a little bit more about. So if you put together the asking the right questions, keeping ER bills down, and avoiding unnecessary and potentially harmful tests and procedures, those incrementally small changes easily pays for the price of health literacy education. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Al Lewis, who's going to start with a poll on the level of health literacy that you think that exists in your group of employees or members. And then he's also going to show us some content as a demonstration. Take it away, Al.
Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, I am jumping to my screen share here. And well, actually, let's go right to the poll. So the question on the poll is, what percentage of your employees are health literate enough to avoid wasteful spending on useless or harmful treatments? In other words, left to their own devices, spending largely your money, what percent do you think are going to spend it wisely? Now, you can just use this little, actually here, you can just use a little bar down here, the slider, and put it up to whatever number you think is right. Now, when you're thinking about that, I did see one or two questions come in, Mark.
One is, are you able to teach employees about company benefits?
Yes, those are custom questions. They're very popular. You just give us the factoid, and we have what's known as shell questions, and they usually, in benefits, they're usually some pretty clever wrong answers, because it's hard to engage people in a discussion of benefits unless you're, fun about it. I don't have to tell you anything you don't already know here. As we sometimes say, only 1/12 of all medical events happen during open enrollment month. So people are in these open enrollment meetings, their eyes are glazing over, and maybe a month or two later, something happens to them, and they forget what you told them in the open enrollment meeting. Well, we typically we'll ask 1 to 2 benefits questions a month to keep people engaged. And also on their homepage, we always have the number, the contact information for benefits. So let us see surveys. Well, I have to submit a response as well in order to see the survey. Survey says, okay, well, this is a delightfully and appropriately skeptical group that came in well below what we usually see. The average response, I put 17%. The average that we got today was 26. Usually we're getting about, 33 or something. The national average is in fact 12%, and we'll be sending you this, and it is sourced down here. So this, by the way, if we didn't show any other slides, this right here is the business case for Quizzify. So to continue, we will show you some examples of things that employees need to know. Now, as Mark pointed out before, and as Harrison Ford amply demonstrates, there is actually no correlation between how much effort and spending you put into a program and how effective it is. Okay, health literacy gets vastly more effectiveness out of vastly less investment than most health improvement programs. So let's look at some of these lessons. We've got a whole page of them here in all sorts of different categories. But let's start with spinal fusion, and we'll show you how we teach it. Now, one of the things that we do teach in other questions is there was actually a poll at a conference, and about 99% of the surgeons at that conference said it was a spinal fusion or an orthopedic conference, said they would not get a spinal fusion. So that's a powerful question. Now, here's another one. What is the number one reason for spinal fusion for adults? Is it failed spinal fusion, degenerative disc disease, scoliosis, or slip disc? And Mark, while folks are doing that, did we get anything else come in?
Yeah, in terms of expanding on this question about, can you educate about benefits? What if we have other vendors, like you know, an EAP or a diabetes vendor? Can you teach about them as well?
Yes, not only can we teach about them, but you know, just to name names, Hinge Health. We just had a customer that they added Hinge Health, and Hinge Health was kind enough to add its own incentives to the quiz about musculoskeletal pain in order for us to educate and make people aware of Hinge Health's existence. So instead of, you know, this particular case was, I don't know, they had like 20 drawings for $50 gift cards. Hinge doubled that. So, you know, of the 500, 600 employees who were going to respond, almost 10% were going to win something. So, Mark, do we have, okay, well, it's pretty even between all of those items. So let's go to the videotape. The answer is failed spinal fusion. These surgeries fail at a higher rate than any other common surgery, and that's over time. It's also possible that the initial fusion doesn't take. That happens occasionally. Now, one of the Quizzify mantras, and you remember the other one, the general one about just because it's healthcare doesn't mean it's good for you. One of the other Quizzify mantras is that it has to do specifically with back pain. 80% of all back pain goes away on its own, but 80% of us with back pain are convinced at some time or another that we are in the other 20%. That is why so much more back pain gets done than has to be done. Now, each of these questions comes with a Learn More link, and people do click through on them. So let's go to the next question. Tics. Now, I didn't look at anything like the whole list of attendees because a whole bunch more people came in after I turned it off. But I know a lot of you live in areas where tics are prevalent. And we've got entire quizzes on tics, and we can actually customize them to the particular type of tic and disease that's in your area. Here's how one of the things that we would teach. Okay, what should you do with a tic after you remove it? Flush it down the toilet as soon as possible before it reattaches. Send it to that kid who used to steal your lunch money. Save it in a lidded jar, or squish it. I think we may be caught up on questions, but are there any more that have come in?
Yeah. Can you send me a link of the study that the Mayo Clinic did on misdiagnosis?
Yeah, we'll put that.
Yeah,
we'll put that in the follow-up.
In the follow-up, yeah. And if I can figure out a way to put it in the chat box, I'll put it in there as well. So.
All righty. The answer is save it in a lidded jar, and only 30% got that one. You do, in fact, save it in a lidded jar because if you get symptoms, occasionally the tic itself can be used to determine how to treat them. And we have a testimonial on somebody who just brought the tic to the doctor, and the doctor said, oh yeah, well, it can't be this because it's this kind of tic. Not always. And some labs, and for that matter, some doctors are much better than others. So you got to do your own research in your own area, and we'll help you with that. Sometimes it's as easy as looking at the tic to determine the species, because different species carry different diseases. So once again, we got another mantra here, folks. This is mantra number 3. In case you get sick, keep that tick. In case you get sick, keep that tick. I know some of you Seinfeld fans are thinking that sounds like I want to stop at the duty-free shop. That is not a coincidence. We are all Seinfeld fans here at Quizzify. Now we have a little additional content. Ticks are one of our obsessions for the very specific reason that no other vendor addresses them. And yet, during the summer months, tick-borne illness is the #1 source of preventable things that happen over heart attacks, over anything else. So you need to have something that addresses it. So here's one of our pieces of additional content that we think you'll really like.
Okay, this is a real tick, not an actor. As we say in Quizzify, they cannot jump on you like Superman. They can't repel on you like Spider-Man. They don't even glide on you like Rocky the Flying Squirrel. But watch how gently I just brush against it and I get a tick.
Okay, so I hope any PETA folks in the audience are not upset that we did actually, mercifully kill. Actually, I don't know how merciful it was. They're very hard to kill that tick after the session. All right, let's do one more because another very preventable thing that is not covered, I don't think, by any other vendor. This one I'm certain is not covered. This one, I think, and you may recall Mark made an allusion to this early in the session about certain cancers are vastly easier to detect and prevent than others, and this is #1 on the list. Skin cancer, particularly melanoma. It's hard to detect the others, but melanoma, this is how we teach it. Well, this one actually, frankly, I don't even think we need well, we just gave the answer, Mark, so we don't actually need the panel this time. But if you didn't have the question, we would say, what serious cancer is easiest to screen for, benefits most from early detection, and has the most false positives? And the answer is, as we've talked about, melanoma. Any strange-looking, growing, shape-changing, darkening, or itching mole in your skin should be shown to a dermatologist. Now, the fact is, most of them are not melanoma, but it's worth the copay to hear, oh, that's nothing. Melanoma has a bigger benefit to early treatment than almost any other cancer. Now, if you go to learn more, you can actually compare what's ever happening in your skin to one of these pictures and see if it looks like it. So we're going to just wrap this part up and then return to the agenda. And since I'm the one sharing, I got to go to where we were here. So I'm going to, well, let me just go back to screen share here. I'm going to show you, because we're getting into the highlight here, which is pricing based on engagement. Now, for us to price based, so you don't have to shake the dice and do a PEPM anymore, but for us to price on the basis of engagement, we have to be sure we have high engagement. And we are. And here are some of the highlights of our industry-leading engagement. Now, let's look first at quiz participation rates to earn what in this case is a minor incentive. So in Vermont, the entire state has about 14,000 teachers, 70,000 registered of their own volition. Of the 73, I'm sorry, 7,000 and more change registered of their own volition. Of those, about a third are playing every month. About a third are playing every month, and 3/4 have played multiple times, if not every month, during the last year. It's not just that they're opening the quiz, 98% are completing it. So this is really good participation. But participation does not equal engagement. We are not pricing on the basis of participation. We're going to be pricing on the basis of engagement. Some participants just want the money. Now, here's a well-known vendor that at one point had an $18 billion market cap. And if you went to their website, and this is a cut and paste, it says people love them. But if you went to the Amazon reviews, And somehow they got their Amazon reviews taken down. I don't know how they did this, but and they had about 65 of them saying the same thing before they got them taken down. They have only a 1.5 out of 5. I have never seen an Amazon review this low. And in fact, if you go to the Better Business Bureau, they also have about 60 ratings, and they're also about a 1.5 out of 5. So obviously people are just participating in this particular program and many other programs for the money. So let's look at the difference between participation and engagement. These are Vermont's engagement stats. You cannot buy these with participation incentives. We have no customers, anybody who pays you to do what these three things are. First is the power user rate. These are folks who take the quiz and they say, you know, there is more information in there that I could glean. I'm going to take that quiz again till I get everything right. And that's 33%. Or they get really interested in a topic like the ones you saw, and they might click through to the tick video or the learn more links. And once again, there's no incentive for doing that. They're just doing that because they're interested. Then we ask after the quiz, did you just learn something new? In this case, 97% did, 3% didn't. And keep this statistic in mind because we're going to come back to it. But then the other thing is we offer bonus quizzes in addition to repeat quizzes. This is user activity in any given month. This is the number of users in blue, and this is the number of quizzes played in green. So the average person in a month, in this particular month, who played one quiz is playing another quiz just because they want to do it. There's no incentive other than learning about health and healthcare, which is the ultimate incentive for doing Quizzify. So now that is the Vermont school. So they're going to be higher than average. But let's look at what our average Quizzify mind is. A person who first of all, they're going to be people who don't play at all. Okay, they're people who you could offer to unlock the secrets of the universe and they wouldn't play. They're people who you're giving $1,000 wellness incentives for some reason and they won't play. They won't do a wellness stream. The average person who plays one quiz plays 8 quizzes a year and links to 4 in-depth articles. Now, depending on the size of your organization, it's almost certainly less than 50 and maybe less than 40 or even $30 for this average person to learn all this stuff. The bottom line is that employees will learn more about health and healthcare in a year in a way that benefits them and your bottom line than most people learn in a lifetime. Now, you want engagement? This is engagement. There is no other vendor so engaging that they get compensated to present at conferences. Most vendors have to pay to present at conferences. We get paid to present at conferences. One reason our price is so low is that we don't have this huge marketing expense. And you can see that, by the way, this is, for those of you who don't know me, this is me up here doing my best Tony Robbins impression. The question is, you can see about tuna fish and how much mercury is in it on the screen there. And that is why we are now encouraging this no-risk, engagement-based pricing. And with that, Peter, I will stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Al. All right, so I'm not sure if you detected the excitement in Al's voice there. It was pretty understated, but I think it's fair to say that we're very excited about this new pricing structure. And so just as a little bit of context, roughly, I don't know, a month or two ago, we kind of put our heads together and thought very, very hard how to make this promise of no risk pricing a reality. And the reason we're calling it no risk, another phrase that I like to append to that is no regrets, no risks, no regrets. Like how can you get that benefit that Al and Mark just spelled out without having to think twice about whether you're paying too much or you're, and so on. So hopefully after I show you this, you'll agree that there's really nothing to worry about here in terms of the price. So, traditionally, of course, in this industry, you price per employee, whether per month or per year, same thing. So, our sort of default price per employee per year was $12. Now, we have created two types, fairly similar, but with subtle differences, of no risk pricing. So you can just, if you want to keep it simple, you can just do $6 per quiz, period. And that includes, if somebody plays the same quiz 3 times, that would still count. But just a flat rate per quiz, so you're only paying for every unit of quiz taken. Simple. Now, we do have a few asterisks here where, someone might be concerned that, well, maybe I'll end up paying too much then, because what if somebody goes crazy and takes tons of quizzes? We have a cap, which is 25% on top of the per employee pricing. So $12 plus 25% is $15. So if it turns out that you would exceed that with this per quiz pricing or the per engagement pricing on the right, we would just stop billing you after $15. Now, per engagement is very similar in sort of stylistically, but it's a little bit more nitty gritty. So instead of $6 per quiz, you pay $4 for either a quiz completed, one of those in-depth articles that you clicked out of a quiz, and we also have sort of we have a factor for Quizzify to go. For a download of Quizzify to go, we count that as 4 engagements because there's a lot of stuff in Quizzify to go applying to the ER, to doctor visits, and so on. So we just sort of high level count that as 4 engagements as a one-time fee for that. So that's the baseline pricing, but the fun is just getting started. So let me take a typical 5,000 per employee employer, and let's see what happens. And there we go. So this is, on the smaller side, so the discount rate is lower. Obviously, as you would get larger, this rate shoots up proportionally. But you would get a 3% discount, but you would also, as a bonus, get free customization, which normally we charge $2,000 for as kind of a flat rate. And that means that any kind of benefits questions, or for example, Al mentioned ticks are regional. So those kind of customizations we would do for you with no additional charge. So, that 3% takes you down to somewhat lower pricing proportionally for all. And now, this is, I think, this is the way I would think about this if I were making this decision. So we took just a handful of kind of major categories that we teach. I mean, there are hundreds more, but these are kind of top of mind for many people. So you've got ER visits, spinal fusions, which Al had that example, CT scans and MRIs, stents, dental fillings, and premature births.
Peter,
so you add all...
yeah,
go ahead.
We didn't go into the CT scans and the MRIs, but they are vastly overused in the US, and we provide these questions to talk about the downside of them. So there's lots of opportunity in people not demanding inappropriate ones.
Exactly. So that's exactly why we have this graphic here, because the way we think of this is 5.5 million kind of handpicked from certain categories out of an even larger number, potentially a 2 or 3 or 4 times larger number of health spend that, so in this case, this is for 5,000 employees. This would be a normal estimate for the US. And according to all sorts of research, at least a third of that, possibly more, is generally wasted or unnecessary. So that's how we see the world. We look at this huge number of millions of dollars that a little bit of education could materially move all of these categories and many more. So in comparison, across all 3 of these price structures, at the moment, and I'll hold that thought because I'll show some ways that this can move in a second. But say you have a sort of a $57,000 estimated Quizzify fee. So you would break even at 1% of reducing just these categories. Forget about all the other categories we teach, all the stuff we do with doctor visits and so on. Just in these few categories, if you reduce spend by 1%, that would entirely cover the fee of Quizzify. And then everything beyond that is upside. So that's kind of our mission, is really to get to and exceed that mark for all of our clients. Now, So with that in mind, though, let's come back to the three pricing options, because if they're all the same, what difference does it make? Well, here's where kind of the magic happens. And this is why we think of this as a no risk, no regrets option. Our typical kind of client will have approximately 25%, or roughly a quarter of their employees engaged, which I think Al knows more about this than me, but I would say that would blow most of the competition out of the water. I think it's safe to say.
Certainly competition that costs what we cost, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just starting at that baseline, and these prices, as you can guess, are calibrated roughly around this baseline. But say you're, and sometimes we do run into these conversations, say you're worried that, well, my employees won't do it. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be tough sledding. Well, fine. That's why it's no risk, no regrets. Let's say you only get 10%. The prices fall accordingly. So that may be an attractive option for you. Now, on the other hand, you may think, well, geez, what if my employees just blow way past this mark and I'm going to be stuck with a huge bill? No, that's where the cap comes in. So say you're keep going, boom. At 33%, which is about a third or so above our baseline, you hit the cap. And you can go to 100%. We don't care. We're not going to charge you more. You're capped at 25% extra on top of the per employee amount. So again, at the risk of being repetitive, we're trying to make this no risk, no regrets. We're trying to create a situation where if you opted for the per engagement pricing and you did end up paying a little bit more, you're still happy because you're getting a ton of education into your employees at still a fairly reasonable cost. So it's sort of, it's hard to lose in either direction here. And if that's not enough, there's actually a little bit more. So we decided, this is also kind of announced, I believe, for the first time today. We've been kicking around this idea for a while, and now we're making it official. We're going to take 5% of whatever fee you pay us, and kind of like, I think of this as like American Express. Like, we're going to take 5% of that and give it back to your employees. Now, and we've built an algorithm that will randomly sort of give out these rewards, mostly gift cards, but potentially some other types of rewards. And but it'll be weighted by their participation. So those that participate more will obviously get more of a chance to win, and so on. The reason this is very cool in two ways. Well, number one, some of the money you give us, we actually pretty much give right back to you, or to your employees. So that's one way. Another thing is that randomized rewards have been studied by every conceivable expert in terms of habit formation. There's actually a casino, believe it or not, in Las Vegas. That's a fake casino, purely for research purposes. And obviously casinos are pretty interested in the research, but tech companies are also some of the sponsors of this research casino. Because what they're proving, and they go down to a deep level of detail on this, but like what they're proving is that randomizing rewards, not just giving someone a cookie every time they do something, but having this be sort of a, you spin the wheel and you may get a reward. That is the thing that makes people most excited to participate in something and keep participating. So that's why we did it that way. I just want to say one other thing about this, which is that a pain point for some clients is that they have to go through the process of reporting and collating reports and so on in order to give their incentives. Well, you can just outsource that to us. This can be entirely self-contained. We just run the program, we give the incentives. You don't have to necessarily do anything unless you want to. So we think that's very cool. And then another thing is, again, we don't want to be charging people unless somebody learns. The slogan, kind of informal slogan, is like, you only should pay for what your employees learn. And so, like Al mentioned before, after every quiz, we ask, did you learn something new? Usually we get over 95% of people saying yes, but we actually would love it to be 100%. So we won't bill you for the difference. So I wanted to highlight that here finally, where this blue bar, that represents the 5% we give back, the Quizzify rewards. And starting at 0, let's say 10% of employees say they didn't learn anything. We will discount all your fees by that amount. So hopefully it's clear that that there is no reason to have a regret, or there's no risk in this pricing approach. And I believe it's any questions on that? And if not, I think it's back to Mark, right?
Yeah,
Right?
I'm going to, okay. Thank you, Peter. What I'll do is I'm going to just get this slideshow going here. X is boxed out, sorry. There we go. Okay. All right. We're just going to get to what we're trying to do. What we'd like to do is announce a quick start pilot, and this will let a group of employees or members prove that Quizzify works with a pilot group of any size. And what we're going to do is provide 2 quizzes, one general one and one you can pick out of our 75 specialty topic quizzes. And anyone can play these quizzes within 2 months. And we're going to ask for a $500 credit card or purchase order to get this going. And the way this quick start pilot works is that if less than 90% agree that they've learned something, we'll refund the $500. If less than 80% agree that they've learned something, we'll actually refund you double what you're putting as a payment here. So that's $1,000. Now, if after this 2-month pilot you choose to continue with our full suite of health literacy services, we will use that $500 that you paid us to apply that to the program that you continue with us. So this is our quick start pilot, and it's actually very easy to get started with Quizzify because we don't deal with personal health information. What we'll do is we'll set up a dedicated homepage, and we'll spend a fair amount of time making sure that Quizzify is very accessible to your employees. We've learned that it's important to make sure that Quizzify is in a place that your employees can get to, and we've got a lot of ways to do that. We'll show you how to watch the reporting. We're going to apply 5% to these incentives that we actually manage that as well. But literally, you can get started with Quizzify and plug and play it. You can let the program run by itself. We have a curriculum that'll go out 5 years, so you can let it run if you don't have the time to really dive into the content. But you're welcome to dive into the content. We've got lots of content. We can really get very granular on informing people about second opinion programs, about MSK programs, about EAP programs. We've got all sorts of questions that are pre-written on programs like that. And if you brought in a new navigation program, we can make sure people understand and they use it. So, okay, to wrap us up here, Al Lewis is going to take us into 2 deep expertise topics that Quizzify has been working on.
Thank you very much, Mark. And I'm going to go to screen show. These are 2 things that we're probably most famous for these days: our ER prevent consent and weight loss drug coverage. Let's start with the weight loss drug coverage because that's on everybody's mind. Our content actually now includes a full course to engage employees on GLP-1 drugs and hopefully discourage some. And you can take the course as well. And these are some of the topics. I'm not going to go into them in large detail, but you can pick any one of them. Like, what is by far the most likely nutrient deficiency that you're going to get as a result of Wegovy, and what are its consequences? I guarantee you that most employees don't know that. Now, for you, as opposed to your employees, our GLP-1 curriculum can earn you CE credits from SHRM or finance credits as well. You just go to this link right here, and we will send it out. And Illumio, they have a ton of these things, has our course. It just hit, I think yesterday or the day before, on understanding and controlling the cost of weight loss drug coverage. That will have everything you need to know. We are, by the way, we believe the only vendor that is, of course, we had to take out my favorite part, which is the sales pitch, but we are the only vendor who can give you SHRM credit for because our insights are so powerful. And To tease the next webinar, the other thing that we are more best known for is the prevent consent that keeps ER bills and now emergency admission bills. Well, it keeps ER bills under $1,000 most of the time, but it keeps the emergency admission bills 50%, 25 to 50% lower than they otherwise will be. So watch your inbox. Some of you have seen the second generation of this, where nobody has to write anything in when they go to the ER. They have a wallet card that they peel off and they stick on that has a consent on it. What you'll see in the next webinar is we've taken this to the next level where employees essentially have to do nothing. The consent takes place at the group level. And with that, let us conclude. You've now seen all the topics that Quizzify provides and how important they are, and how 5% as much effort as any major wellness program gets you 95% of the I said that wrong. It requires only 5% as much effort as a wellness program does, and yet you get vastly more uptake, understanding, behavior change, and savings. To just conclude, you can contact us right now for a no-risk pricing quote, or right now with a credit card, or well, you won't have a PO right now, with a credit card to get started on Quizzify. Remember, wiser employees make healthier decisions, and healthier decisions save money. Mark, we have 2 minutes. Did we get any other questions?
This is more about the pricing. Is Quizzify economical for groups of about 50? Do we have any minimums?
Mark, you're the pricing guru.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we do have, and this application that Peter showed, we will be able to share that. You invite people to reach out to me and just ask about different group sizes, and we'll send you some analysis like Peter was showing you about a certain group and the pricing structures you can opt for. But the bottom line is that we have a $500 minimum, and so that does work out to be economical down to groups even less than 100 as well. So we all know how expensive healthcare is, per employee. When you're talking something in the vicinity of 12,000 or more per employee, investing $500 for almost any size group to give them the access to Quizzify health literacy can make some good sense. So yes, we are economical for smaller groups, and we can, if you reach out to me either through that QR code or just at mark@quizzify.com, I can be happy to walk you through it or send you a quote, whatever.
Any other questions, or should we wrap?
I think we can wrap.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for being with us, and keep your eyes on the prize for the next webinar coming up after the first of the year.